Well, first of all, we want to make sure that we continue to develop our safety plan for the district, and that was a great opportunity presented to us to be a participant in that. And the expectations were to try to provide great exercise opportunity for our high school students. In addition, we want to try to stress and emphasize that because the term was a mass casualty exercise, that we wanted to make sure that students knew that our goal is to not to have any injuries whatsoever. And so the exercise was kind of set up to have injuries, and so we want to try to present that a concept to the students to make sure that we don't anticipate, that we have problems, but we have to prepare for them. What I learned is that communication is usually the biggest challenge, and we confirmed that there were some communication issues within our agency and also all of the different agencies that were involved. One thing that we learned was how to do what's called an incident command, in which in our case, the police chief kind of takes over the incident and the responsibility of the incident. And so he takes charge of the event and that transfer of the authority during an actual emergency situation and how that works. So that was beneficial to us to actually work through that, which we've never done officially before. As far as doing things differently, I think what we need to do is look at different types of exercises. We're not going to focus just on active shooter because there's lots of other things. We're right next to a train tracks here. There are things that could happen, safety-wise that involve the train tracks, aircraft, all kinds of other emergencies. And so we're going to continue to watch those types of situations and prepare for those. One of the things that we did not spend time deliberately on was what's called a reunification plan, and how to get students that are involved in a serious incident, getting them back and matched up with parents and guardians and their relatives. So we did not do that except for the kids that were actually transported to the hospital. There was a reunification for them. So that's something we'll do a little differently and probably practice some. Well, I personally learned that there's a lot of agencies out there that we didn't know would be involved in a serious process like this. And so it was interesting to learn all the county agencies that will be stepping up, and even state agencies that sometimes come in and assist the community, especially with how to handle the media during an incident similar to this, and all the communication that has to happen.
For us as a school district, we were looking to do some of the same things that we've always done in terms of our active shooter type situations, but by involving the law enforcement, fire and rescue, we were able to kind of take it to another level in terms of having them respond to the scene and having us communicate directly with them in terms of how we would react in those situations. So that was something that we've done the lockdown, we've done the Alice drilling, but that kind of took it to the next level for us. Yes, I think so. I think anytime the reason you do this is to learn and get better at things, and I think we were able to identify some things in terms of how we communicate, how we can do a better job of that, how when they arrive on scene, how we start to communicate them with as far as being in charge as school officials, how we kind of turn that over to them. So we were able to identify some things in that area that we can look to improve on. I think I personally learned from the results is that we have done a lot of preparation, and I thought the things that we've done with students and staff, they responded the way we would want them to respond in that situation if we were ever faced with something like that. So I think it just reinforced for me that the training that we've done and the drilling that we do has been in line with what we need to do to be prepared, and we'll continue to do so. I think the big thing that this did that hasn't in the past is just that it was a collective effort, from starting with us to where, the incident actually happened to, again, every agency thereafter, across the board, our lines of communication have been improved. Once again, I think at every level we identified some things that could improve. That's, again, why you do it. So I think as a community, we are that much more prepared should an unfortunate event like this occur.
One of our issues is always getting the right amount of people spread out onto multiple radio channels, so it helped us learn to do that because these are a large-scale incident, something we don't have to do a lot, so it let us practice that. It also interacting with the school, where there's a lot of security issues to begin with, a lot of kids. It made for a better realization of, you know, how things are going to be and the amount of people we got to deal with, not just victims, but bystanders and a lot of mental stress issues that go along with the whole situation. There's always continued planning needed. You know, we can't just wait for something to happen and then fix it. We have to be planning. We sort of have to be fixing ahead of time and knowing that here's things that can change. You know, as the school buildings change, as the years go by and student bodies change, we have to continually be proactive. It's not a situation where we can wait to be reactive in. It let everybody, you know, oftentimes the chief or the person at the top of an organization makes a lot of calls, and this allowed a lot of people at the line staff level to make a lot of decisions and know that they can operate on their own if they had to, and it allowed us to practice stepping into higher authority roles to know that we can deal with a situation regardless of who's here. We could deal with it as an organization and not just individuals. There's a lot of stress involved in just making sure things go right, because even though you know it's a drill, you want it to go right so that it looks like you know what you're doing. And usually getting the cooperation out of the other participants in the drill is critical, and it did go well. That was a little bit stressful because we had some miscommunications there, but we worked through it. And yeah, handling it helps you deal with the stress in real life, because then you know that, hey, we just got to settle down, step back a minute, change our tactic here, and then we can get the situation resolved. So yeah, it did help a lot.
I believe so. I mean, we found some deficiencies, but overall it was an excellent training for our officers as well as for the EMTs and fire personnel that were on scene. We do need to do a little bit more training, and one of our deficiencies was communications within the groups itself, getting them to work better together and understand that police do this job, EMTs do this job, and getting them to mesh for this type of exercise. Very well. We've got a good working relationship with the police departments. We had 3 different police departments as well as the sheriff's department there assisting us. On the fire side, there was, I believe, 3 or 4 different fire departments as well, working hand in hand. Again, that's where we found that the communications was the one area that we will have to work on, and we have been working on that since this exercise occurred.
For the hospital side of things, well, as the community as a whole, this was the first time we'd done something of this nature. So what we needed to do was find where our baseline was, and then what's going to work for us, and then what we need to maybe reevaluate and refocus on to improve for future instances.
So from the hospital standpoint, it's basically the same thing. We're looking at our plan, what we have in place, and did it work? And if it didn't, or if there were areas that we need to improve, then what do we need to do to improve?
Communication is key. Just like in our everyday life, if you have a breakdown in communication, if you have ineffective communication, then that has a ripple effect. And we noticed that with some of our flow, perhaps we could have communicated better, and that would improve those areas. Definitely communication.
Yeah, I agree with Carrie. Communication is the #1 priority, and we were able to take care of the patients that were brought in and handle those things quite well, but it was a communication about who's coming, when they're coming, how we need to communicate with some of the other agencies that were involved.
I think probably the biggest thing that came out of it was we met for 8 months on a monthly basis, and we all sat down and we talked about the what ifs and the how to's and what each entity's responsibility and role is within the community. And I think that just helps strengthen our ties, because if something happens, we are working together, we're a team, and that just helped to build upon that.
It helps us know who to call within the community. It also helps us know that, it helped us know that what we thought we might be able to ask other people help for, they're involved in something else, we may need to have a second or a third backup that we need to be able to contact.
With an exercise like this, we do activate our emergency operations plan. We activated a code yellow, a mass casualty plan. And within those, that establishes incident command and gives a chain of command that everyone works under as to what resources or staffing that they need, where people need to be located, who needs to respond. And so we exercise that portion of it, along with things like triage, security, things like that.